are we?
We are healthy, happy children with big dreams.
We are a strong family, able to care for each other.
We are a proud community, taking charge of our situation.
You can find us in a slum, amid the squalor and despair. You can find us in a village, where the basics of life are lacking. You can find us in the halls of power, or wherever decisions are made that affect the world's poorest people.
We are help in times of disaster.
We are a support on the road to recovery. We are change that's real and lasting. We are health in places where sickness and death were once commonplace. We are protection from exploitation, trafficking and abuse. We are opportunity through education, training or small loans that boost family livelihoods. You can see us in a sip of safe, clean water. You can see us in a plentiful harvest or a thriving business. You can see us in a child's smile.
We will not be silent witnesses to oppression. We will not be idle while there is injustice.
We will not rest while children suffer.
We are faith. Our Christian faith teaches us that every newborn child is a precious gift from God, and that their well-being and their future concerns us all. We are hope. We embrace what some believe to be impossible challenges and empower communities to overcome them. We are joy. Our joy is the joy of others who see their hopes and dreams fulfilled.
We are 50,000.
We are 50,000 passionate staff and volunteers who have dedicated their skills and experience to helping others.
We are 10 million.
We are 10 million committed supporters who know that we are making a real and lasting change in children's lives.
We are 100 million.
We are 100 million people in towns, villages and cities throughout the world, working hard every day to build a better life for our children. We are one, a global community of people committed to improving the lives and futures of the world's most vulnerable boys and girls. We are World Vision.
For children.
For change.
For life.
"2021 is turning into a humanitarian crisis for children. There have never been more reasons to sponsor a child than there are right this second. So that instead of being a child bride, Neil and Jonah can focus on school. So girls like Eureka can be safe, free from child labour, and dream of a better future. So your family can change the lives of children around the world, just as James is leading his community to do the same. Every reason adds up. By sponsoring a child, you can be the reason they have faith in a brighter future, instead of fear of an uncertain tomorrow. Make this a year of hope, a year of joy, a year of empowering children to break free from poverty for good. One child, one reason at a time, you can change the course of this crisis. For countless reasons, sponsor a child today.
Hi everyone, my name is Faith. I'm from World Vision Singapore. Thank you for taking the time out this Saturday morning to join World Vision's Face Out Party for Book Clear. When we first started out with this Face Out Party series 2 years ago, we were very intentional with the naming of it. As most of you know, for our child sponsorship programs, we usually work in an area for about 11 to 15 years. We don't stay there forever because we believe in equipping the community members to stand on their own 2 feet, so we can continue helping other areas around the world that are more needy and vulnerable. Therefore, it is indeed a party and something worth celebrating, because together with partners like yourself, we've come a long way, and today's session is very special because we are excited to share with you some of the highlights we've achieved, particularly in Bukea district in Thailand. Before we proceed on further, I'd like to share a couple of webinar guidelines. So for best viewing option, please click on view options at the top and click side-by-side mode. If you have any questions, please feel free at any one point in time to use the Q&A function that you see at the bottom, or WhatsApp us at 69220144. You may also scan the QR code and it will bring you to a WhatsApp window. My colleagues will be happy to answer any of your questions. The webinar is expected to last for about 1 hour and 30 minutes. Finally, this webinar will be live streamed and a recording will be made available after. For security purposes, please do not attempt to record the webinar on your own. So for those of you who are new and may not have heard about World Vision, we are a Christian humanitarian organization operating in nearly 100 countries around the world. We are dedicated to helping the most vulnerable children, even in the most dangerous places, to overcome poverty and experience fullness of life. We serve all people, regardless of religion, race, ethnicity, or gender. So today, as we start off with our Bukea, discussion and sharing, let's start off with a very fun and interactive quiz. So you should see a window popping up in front of your screen, and you can click to select the options. So there are a total of 4 questions here. Okay, I think most of you have probably answered. Okay, if you haven't got it correct, so World Vision Singapore, we have been supporting Bukea, a community located in the province of Nan, which is the northern part of Thailand, since 2008. And it is one of the border districts next to Laos and is in a valley located far from the urban area. So one interesting fact, as you can see from the picture in this slide, is that Bukea is known for its salt wells. Yeah, and in World Vision's initial assessment phase, it was found that 90% of villagers were living below the poverty line. So some of the key challenges first identified were economic poverty. Living conditions are difficult because of inaccessibility, poor infrastructure, low incomes from farming, and lack of alternative sources of livelihood. Poor families cannot afford to invest in farming tools, seeds, and other necessities. On top of that, the hilly terrain makes farming difficult, and there is a lack of dependable water supply and proper infrastructure. So as such, people are also unable to produce enough food to feed their families, and only 70% of children in the community have access to adequate and nutritious food. There is also the concern of a lack of access to clean water. So most of the families, they do not own the land, so they are unable to develop the areas in ways that will improve their agriculture practices, or for drinking or sanitation purposes as well. So that results in insufficient water for annual consumption, and the lack of equipment to purify water causes children to fall sick easily. Another concern would be the educational challenges. Children under 5 are often deprived of early childhood education as parents search for work in other districts and bring their young children along after the harvest or in the dry season to supplement family income. So access to quality education for children is limited, and going to school is treacherous due to the rainfalls that results in mudslides and uneven surfaces along the road. So as we look back from the beginning, from the lack of access to quality education, clean water, to limited knowledge for alternative sources of income, the community was facing many challenges that affected the children's well-being. And because of sponsors like yourself, we are now able to see the community and children thriving and hoping for a better future. So before we go on to share some of the impacts and highlights, I would like to invite a sponsor to share her own personal child sponsorship journey. Just like many of you on this call today, Shu Chuan has been a sponsor for a very long time, since 2015. So she has been sponsoring for a total of 6 years. She has 7 sponsored children from countries such as Nepal, China, Mongolia, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and of course, Thailand. She had also the pleasure of joining us on our child sponsorship trips and has personally visited Buklea to, see her sponsored child and community. So in fact, 3 times, right? In 2016, 2018, and 2019. So Shu Chuan, thank you so much for joining us today. Please share with us some of your experiences and reflections as a child sponsor.
Hey, hi everyone. So my name is Su Chuan. So thank you, Faith, for the introduction. So so basically I started in 2015. So I just wanted to share a little bit about how I actually started on this journey. So in 2015, I had a good friend who actually shared with me about World Vision. Didn't really hear about it before this. So she mentioned that she started sponsoring this child, and it's quite a interesting thing that you can pick the child that you want. So I just went to Google, and so I started the very first 2 children from Nepal. So 2015 was the year that Nepal had the earthquake, so that's why I chose Nepal. So for the very first year, I basically didn't really do much. I didn't write any letters. I didn't really send anything to the kids. So it was really just every month, the gyro contribution would just deduct from the bank, and then didn't really think too much about it. So in 2016, so I was taking a break from work basically. So I thought that it's a good time to do some charity work, and I wanted to travel, so I wanted to go on a charity trip. So then I happened to chance upon this trip to Thailand. So at that point of time, I didn't have a sponsored child in Thailand. So, but Thailand is a country that is very familiar to me. It's I go to Bangkok pretty often. So I thought, why not just join the trip and just see, what World Vision actually does. So I really had no expectations in terms of what to expect. I really thought we were going there to build houses and paint walls and things like that. So really, in the end, it was very different experience. So so the first trip was in 2016, which I'll share more about the trip later on. But so during the trip, we learned, we were told about this girl. So if you see the first picture on the left, that's my sponsor child. So she was in hospital at that point of time. So she was 5 years old at that time, and she was diagnosed with cancer. So the local hospital actually does not really have the expertise to even properly diagnose what kind of cancer she has. So we just knew that it was this 5-year-old girl with cancer, and then not sure how her prognosis was, how long more she's going to survive, things like that. So at that point of time, I actually asked whether she had a sponsor. So World Vision told me that no, she was not sponsored yet. And then I decided, okay, why not let me sponsor her? So I remember the Thailand staff asking me, are you sure? Because it could be very emotionally draining. For example, if let's say she passes on, or for example, if she needs more assistance in terms of money, and then if I'm not able to do that, then it could be quite mentally challenging. But basically, I said no, it's okay. For as long as she lives, I would like to help her as much as I can. So that's how I started. So the middle photo that you see, this is me visiting her in 2019. So she basically had to go through chemotherapy, radiotherapy. She lost all her hair. And then at one point of time, the doctor said that the cancer was gone. But then unfortunately it relapsed again. So yeah, so this entire 5-year journey with her, there's a lot of ups and downs. There were times that she got better, there were times that she got worse. The last photo at the end is currently how she is. So so as you can see, she lost hair again. So the battle with cancer is still ongoing. So yeah, so basically I'm still supporting her in terms of writing letters and stuff. But of course, the fact that World Vision is moving on from Bokle, it's kind of sad for me, especially knowing that I can probably not be able to see her again. But I'm still happy that the community has improved a lot, and she has the necessary support from the community. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So let's start with the Bokle trip, and let me share with you some of my memories. So so this is the airport at Nan, where Bokle is located. So this is probably one of the smallest airport that I've ever been to. Basically, there's only 2 planes that can park at the airport at any point of time. So yeah, so these are just some of the trippers that went with me. One very memorable memory I had of this airport in particular was the very first year that we went, we actually sat on a propeller plane. So that was something that was very, yeah, it's a first time experience being on a propeller plane, quite scary actually. But we landed safely. So yeah, okay, and then the next slide. Yeah, so this is the hotel that we stayed in. Of course, it's not a 5-star hotel, but considering the surroundings, that we are in, it's definitely pretty nice already. So you can see there's a lot of mountains in the background. It's really, really peaceful and quiet up in the mountains. The air is very fresh, very clean. Some of our trippers actually wake up at 6 a.m. and go jogging around the area. So pretty nice place that we stayed in. And then of course the breakfast you can see on the left. So yeah, we basically had very good breakfast every day before we set out to the mountains. And the next slide, yeah. So again, this is a mountainous area. So we actually spend quite a bit of time traveling up to the mountains. So there are nice roads like you see on the left. But then, there are some areas which are higher up the mountains, which, the normal cars and vans is not able to access. So that's where we actually need to hop onto a 4-wheel drive to actually go up the mountains. And, the roads are not as smooth. So let's show you a video and see how it's like. Okay, so as you can see, this was a very day, so it became really, really dusty. So we were all wearing masks, and going up the mountains. There was one year that we went up and it was actually raining, so it became very wet and very muddy. So yeah, so can you imagine? I mean, we were on a car, but for the villagers, for them to actually go to the school or go to the nearest clinic, for example, yeah, they basically have to walk up and down the mountain. So it's really difficult for them if they do not have transportation. Yeah. Okay. So so we did a lot of school visits when we were there. So this was one of the preschools that we actually went to in the very first year. Yeah, so you can see the top picture. That was how it looked like, and then we actually managed to decorate the entire place for them. So yeah, so this was quite a fun experience on the first year. The next one, so this was another one that we went in 2018, I believe. So you can see it's a very big improvement compared to the first one. One thing that I thought was really good was, if you notice on the walls, they actually already teach them the English alphabet, even at that age. So I think that is something very, very good to see. Yeah. And then yeah, so basically, other than academics, they also teach the kids, things like song and dance. So there's actually a short video clip that we like to show. Yeah. So I'm not sure if you noticed the girl who has the finger in her mouth. So of course you can tell she's special needs kids, and I think at areas like that, where it's so limited, it's really difficult for kids like that to actually get help. So yeah, but I think the fact that she's in the sponsorship program, and World Vision is kind of actively monitoring them, so that is something yeah, that I think it's commendable. At least she still goes to school and she gets to interact with people. Yeah. Okay, the next one, so this is actually a primary school that we visited. So the special thing about this school is that it's actually located near to the border with Laos. So the teachers there, they're actually not teachers, they're actually policemen who are being trained on how to teach. So of course, being near the border, there's always risk of child trafficking. So yeah, so I thought that this school was really interesting that, they have policemen around to protect the children. Yeah. And then of course, every school that we go, we always try to interact with them, play some games with them, and teach them some English songs. So this is one of the songs that we tried to teach them in the video. So yeah, just a short clip of yeah, just a sample of what we do with the kids in the school. Okay, so moving on. So these are pictures of schools which have benefited from World Vision support. So you can see, the tables are very nice. The playground is very new and colorful, and they even have a library. So again, probably 10 years ago when we first started in Bokle, this it was not like that. But that said, there are still, not all schools are like that at this point of time. There are still schools that are not as nice, that are more worn down, but I think this is this is what we hope, that every school will become at the end of the day. So yeah, so this is yeah, hopefully, even without World Vision support, they can be like that. Yeah. And then so water, of course, is something that World Vision always invests quite a bit in. So there are actually big water tanks that they have built up in the mountains. And then, there's all these pipes that actually run down to the schools and to the villages so that, they get clean water. So yeah, so this was again something very heartening to see in the schools, that they have proper toilets, they have proper sinks, that they can wash their hands and brush their teeth. So yeah, so this is again a very big improvement, I guess, for the village compared to 10 years ago. Okay, so then we also visited a high school. So there's actually only one high school in Bokle, if I remember correctly. So again, the school doesn't just focus on academics. They also focus a lot on vocational training. Okay, so yeah, so this was just a baking class that we visited. So the students not only get to learn how to bake, they also learn how to sell the cookies and packaging, and yeah. And then the next one, so they also do teach the students things like carpentry, t-shirt printing, so we actually took a picture with a sponsor on the spot, and then we printed the t-shirt. And then there was another school that actually set up a cafe for the students to manage, and that's where they learned yeah, how to be a barista. The next slide. Okay, so so we also did family visits. So this is what a typical house looks like up in the mountains. You can see that it's built on slopes, and when it rains, it gets muddy. When it's hot, it gets very dry and dusty. The next picture would show you what it looks like inside the house. So the area where this family is sitting, that's actually the kitchen. I'm not sure if you can tell. So yeah, so if you look at the walls, basically they are, I wouldn't consider them walls, but yeah, so they actually offer very little protection in terms of sheltering them from the cold or from the hot. During the end of the year, towards December, it actually goes below 10 degrees at night, so it's really cold, and yeah, basically there's not much insulation given to them using this house. So at the bottom of the houses, typically, they would rear the chickens and ducks, and some of these are actually given to them by World Vision. Yeah. Okay, so the next one, so this is what a successful family would look like, so where they have enough food to not only feed themselves, they also have surplus that, they can actually sell, vegetables, the one in the middle below, that's actually a catfish pond. And then, yeah, so the more livestock they have, the more healthier they can eat, and yeah, and then they can actually sell if they have any surplus. So this, again, ideally, this is what we hope all families eventually would look like. In 2018, this was again a very memorable place that we went. So there was actually a landslide couple of months before we went, due to heavy rain. So it actually affected one of the villages in Bogler. A total of 8 persons actually were killed. Out of the 8, 3 were actually children. So yeah, so basically they had to evacuate very quickly. The landslide occurred at 6 a.m. in the morning. So basically everyone was still sleeping, and yeah, it was just very, very sudden that it happened. So basically they were told to evacuate for their own safety. They didn't have chance to bring anything with them. They just had to run. So they basically lost everything that they had. They just had to leave the place. So temporarily they slept in temples, they slept in schools, and this shelter was actually built by the government. So basically each family is only allocated a very, very small space, and then they have like common toilets and bathrooms. Yeah, so if you notice, the roofs are actually made of tin, so it gets very, very hot during the day. Yeah, so I'm not sure if they are still there. The last time we went, they mentioned that they are basically there until the government can rebuild the village for them. So I'm not sure how long that's going to take. Okay, the next slide. So yeah, so of course during the trip, yeah, it's not just visiting and sightseeing. We also had to do some work ourselves. So some of the things we did was, on the left, we were building a chicken coop, and on the right we were building a pond for catfish, and then we did cooking for the children, as well as planting of vegetables, planting of trees. So yeah, so these were all very happy memories, even though it was hard work, but good experiences, because I don't think we would have a chance to actually do this kind of things in Singapore. Yeah. So, okay, then the next one. So we actually only get to meet our sponsor child on the very last day of the trip. So yeah, so these are just some pictures of the time where I met my child. So yeah, we basically have time to bond with the children, to play games with them, to cook with them, have lunch with them. I mean, I've been to other World Vision trips, and actually Thailand is the one that actually I get to spend the most time. The last trip I went to China, I only had 10 minutes with my child. So half a day is really something I'm very thankful for. Yeah. So, okay. And then the next slide. So these are just pictures of the World Vision team from Thailand. So, they are the ones who actually put in a lot of effort to care for the children, to make sure that they're okay, they're attending school, they're healthy, they're the ones who deliver your letters to them, and yeah, and take pictures of them, make sure they're okay. So one thing that I thought was very impressive was they really know the children and the families very well. Like if you would ask them about any children, they can tell you about, who their parents are, what the World Vision do for them. Yeah, so you can tell that they're really, really involved in this. Yeah. Okay, and then so yeah, so yeah, so basically after the very first trip in 2016, it really changed how I view child sponsorship. It's not just a monthly gyro. The impact that it has on the child, as well as in the community, it's really very significant, and it really changes their life. For my sponsor child especially, I mean, I don't want to take credit, to say that, because of me, then she's still alive, but I like to think that the fact that I sponsored her, it gave her encouragement, and the fact that someone else cares for her and loves her, and and she has such a strong fighting spirit. It's been 5 years, longer than I expected actually, but she's still fighting and she's still holding on to try to get better and to get healthier. So yeah, I think it just made me realize that we are really so lucky in Singapore. Our children are so lucky to be born here. We don't have to think twice about taking a long shower or on the bed that we sleep, or going for a buffet, for example. Yeah, but going on the trip really made me realize that there's really a lot of people that needs our help in the world. And yeah, just a small sponsorship, it's $1.50 per day. Yeah, it really can transform the life of these children. So yeah, so helping one child might not change the world, but it could really make a very, very big difference for that child. So yeah, so if you have not sponsored a child, do consider sponsoring a child. And yeah, if you have been on the trip with me, I hope you also enjoyed going through the memories together with me. Okay, so yeah, that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Su Jen, for the very insightful and comprehensive sharing. I think your child sponsorship journey is really a very touching one. And I think also, especially for, those sponsors on this call, they may not have visited Bukleo itself. And the pictures and sharing actually really give us, a glimpse into what the community is like. So before you go, Shu Juan, please continue staying on the call because we have a little surprise prepared for you.
สวัสดีค่ะ หนูชื่อเด็กหญิงบุญทรักษา ชื่อเล่นน้องออร์แกน ตอนนี้เรียนอยู่ชั้นป .4 ขอขอบคุณคุณพิมพ์มากๆนะคะ ที่คอยช่วยเหลือสนับสนุนหนูมาโดยตลอด ตอนนี้อาการป่วยของหนูดีขึ้นมากแล้วค่ะ หนูจะตั้งใจเรียนเป็นเด็กดี ขอให้คุณพิมพ์มีความสุข มีสุขภาพแข็งแรงมากๆนะคะ ขอบคุณค่ะ บ๊ายบาย
So I understand because of COVID-19, our trips have been cancelled and you were unable to visit and see your sponsored child for one last time before we phase out.
Yep.
So how do you feel, seeing your sponsored child on video today?
Yeah, like I said, it's bittersweet. In general, the community has really improved a lot over the past few years with World Vision support. But for my girl, of course, the fact that she's still ill, of course, it worries me that what's going to happen to her, how is she going to, no one is monitoring her and all that. But I think World Vision Thailand is still in a way looking after her even after we have moved out from this project. So yeah, of course quite sad that I won't get to see her again, but I really hope that she still continues fighting knowing that I'm still supporting her. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think maybe just one last question. I know you did share a bit on this slide earlier on, but I really like this quote that you have here, helping one child might not change the world, but it could change the world for that child. So, what would you like to say to sponsors out there who may not have sponsored children or, are still contemplating on continuing their child sponsorship journey?
Yeah, so maybe I just want to share something else. So the very first year that I went to Bukleo, I didn't get to meet her because she was in the hospital. The second trip was 2018. So we actually happened to stop by, like a provision shop to get some supplies for the kids. And it so happened that the mom of the child, of my sponsored child, was actually happened to be there at the same provision shop, and she actually recognized me from, I guess she has seen a picture of me, and she immediately started crying when she saw me, and yeah, she came to hug me and she started crying. Yeah, so yeah, it was really at that point where I realized that the impact that we have on these families, it's really more than you can imagine. Yeah, so like I said, I started off being a very a sponsor that really just pay money every month and didn't really do much. Yeah, so after the trip, I became a lot more active, and so from 2016 until now, I have taken on one extra child every year, and I hope to do that for as long as I can. Yeah, I think it's really a very rewarding journey, seeing your kid grow up throughout the years. Of course, for Thailand, I didn't, I joined pretty late considering, so just 5 years and then the project has ended. But there are fellow trippers that I know of who has sponsored the child from primary school all the way. And now the child is actually studying in university in Bangkok. So these are things which I think, when the project first started, these kids would not even dream of, going to a university in Bangkok. So you can really change their lives and, give them hope, that they can have a better future. Do consider sponsoring if you have not sponsored. If you have a sponsored child, please try to go on trips if you can, or even write letters, or send some small little gifts. I always get very excited when I see a World Vision envelope in my letterbox. So I struggled, writing my very first letter to my child. I really had no idea what to say, but just share a bit about who you are, and just wish them well, please study hard and take care of yourself, things like that. So and then that's how it starts. So the letters will keep coming to and fro, and you kind of really build a bond with the child, and see them grow up. So it's very rewarding experience.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shu Chen. I think, like what you said is really true. And hopefully, after this COVID-19 pandemic dies down a little more, then we will be able to have our trips back on, and, sponsors can come with us on these trips, because it's such an eye-opening experience. And I think that what you said as well, writing letters is something that is so rewarding and so meaningful. And at this point in time, also, if some of you may not have known, you can actually log on to our website, and you can send an e-letter. So it's as easy as that, sending a letter to your sponsored child. Yeah, so thank you, Su Chen, so much once again for your very inspiring and touching sharing. I believe many sponsors on this call, they can relate to you and how you feel towards our child sponsorship program. Indeed, it's such a meaningful and rewarding experience to be able to give life and hope to children and families who are living in very difficult circumstances. So thank you, Su Chen.
Okay, you're welcome.
So moving on, I believe that there are many questions about why we are not continuing our child sponsorship program in another area in Thailand. Why does it seem like World Vision is leaving Thailand? Or, why can't I sponsor a child from Thailand anymore? Well, to clarify your doubts, we have another guest speaker for today's session, and she is Deborah from World Vision Thailand. Interestingly, Deborah is a Singaporean herself, and she has worked in World Vision Singapore before, where we had briefly met also, and before she decided to join World Vision Thailand. Right now, she serves as a monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning manager, where she seeks to ensure that programs and projects in the field meet quality and accountability standards, and the needs of the most vulnerable children are being addressed. Thank you so much for joining us today, Deborah. Perhaps if you could start off by sharing with us, how World Vision Thailand is a transiting office. What does that mean? And we know that especially in the rural areas, there's still many needs, but why does it seem that they no longer require funding from World Vision Singapore?
Sure, thank you, Faith. Everyone, greetings from Bangkok, Thailand. It's a pleasure to be online with you this morning. And special thanks to World Vision Singapore for inviting me to be part of this celebration. My name is Deborah, and it's a double honor for me to be here today, both as a former staff of World Vision Singapore, as well as a representative of World Vision Thailand. My current role is as the meal manager. I know that with the COVID lockdowns, we've all had to learn a thing or two about managing our meals. But in my case, meal stands for monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning. And yes, I know that is a mouthful, but very simply what it means is that my team and I are responsible for ensuring the quality of our programs. So our job is to make sure that when you support World Vision, you are supporting a program that is effective, will deliver tangible and sustainable results, and will create the positive transformations that we desire to see for the most vulnerable children, families, and communities. So that's what I do. Now I'm going to be honest with you. I am nobody's first choice to be speaking to you today. I believe that you would much rather be able to see some of your sponsored children or even the project team And believe me, I wish you were hearing from them rather than me too. But under these circumstances, with the COVID-19 pandemic becoming increasingly severe here in Thailand, we're unfortunately not able to do that. So I hope you'll bear with me, and I will do my best to share some of what we've been able to do in Kluea ADP. And I'm here today on behalf of our program manager, Kasim, and the rest of the team in Kluea. But you also get a chance to hear from him later on. I spoke with him earlier this week, and he asked me to convey his deep appreciation to all of you lovely sponsors and to World Vision Singapore for your support over the years. Truly, we've only made it to this day because of each one of you. And so we really thank you for being on this journey with us. Now, as Faith mentioned, in terms of what happens after this year, World Vision Thailand has been designated a special kind of office called a transitioning field office, which means that moving forward, our ADPs will no longer be funded by foreign support officers like Singapore. And instead, we'll do our fundraising locally here in Thailand among Thai sponsors. So this is in recognition of Thailand's status as a middle developing country. But certainly the needs do remain, and so our work also does continue. However, Singapore can and does continue to provide support on emergencies and crises in Thailand, including the COVID-19 pandemic. So for those of you who have been following the news, you may be aware that the COVID-19 situation in Thailand has been worsening of late. We first launched our response back in April 2020, and subsequently moved into the recovery phase from July to January of this year, because Thailand was able to contain the virus relatively successfully back then. And through World Vision Singapore donors, maybe even some of you here, we've been able to provide support for the COVID-19 response. And so I would like to just give a quick update on what we've done so far from April last year to January of this year. Now, because of you, we've been able to reach over 349,000 individuals across the country, including 122,000 who are among the most vulnerable children in Thailand. And our response thus far has been focused on prevention, support for health systems, and also multi-sectoral support for children affected. This has really been instrumental in helping communities to cope with the crisis and also to recover from the pandemic. However, this new wave that has started here since late March this year has been exacerbated by the spread of the Delta variant, and this time the spread has not been as well contained. Just this week, Thailand has crossed the 1 million cases mark. So the situation is quite dire, and World Vision Thailand is responding to the crisis once again. At this point, many of you may be wondering about the situation in Kluea and how your sponsored children may be affected. So having spoken to Kasim this week, I'm happy to report that in our program area, none of our children or staff have been infected so far. The community has had a few isolated cases of infected persons who are returning from other provinces, but generally it is still considered a green area, which means it has the lightest restrictions and controls. And schools are also able to continue with the usual distancing and prevention measures in place, of course. Now, last year in Kluea, we were able to distribute a total of 1,800 sets of PPE and also supported 73 of the most vulnerable households with supplementary food sources to help them cope with the crisis. And most recently, given the situation across Thailand now, we have also agreed with World Vision Singapore that we would use sponsorship funds to continue to support the community with PPE, including masks, sanitizer, and hand soap. So as this situation continues to play out, your thoughts, prayers, and support for Thailand will be very much appreciated. But for now, we'll turn our attention back to Kluea and to the transformation that we've seen in the community thus far. Please enjoy this short video clip from our community members and staff.
สู่อำเภอบ่อเกลือ แทนกลุ่มเยาวชนพวกหนูได้มีโอกาสเข้าร่วมกิจกรรมที่ทางมูลนิธิสุพรรณนิมิตสนับสนุนทำให้พวกหนูมีทักษะในด้านอาชีพและสามารถนำไปประกอบอาชีพในอนาคตได้ และยังได้ฝึกทักษะการใช้ชีวิตในสังคมที่ถูกต้องและสามารถใช้ชีวิตอยู่ในสังคมได้อย่างมีความสุขค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ หนูชื่อจิรดา นักเรียนในโรงเรียน หนูและเพื่อนๆได้รับปัจจัยการศึกษา ได้รับอุปกรณ์การเรียนจากมูลนิธิสุพรรณนิมิตทำให้พวกหนูมีความพร้อมในด้านการเรียนมากขึ้น และยังช่วยแบ่งเบาภาระพ่อแม่อีกด้วยค่ะ ขอบคุณค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ หนูชื่ออิรัตตา เป็นตัวแทนของนักเรียนในโครงการ หนูและเพื่อนๆได้เรียนรู้และสนุกกับการใช้สื่อการเรียนการสอนที่คุณครูทำขึ้นมา โดยได้รับการสนับสนุนจากมูลนิธิสุพรรณนิมิตทำให้พวกเรามีสื่อในการเรียนที่สนุกน่าเรียนในทุกๆวันค่ะขอบคุณมากๆค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ ผมชื่อภัควัฒน์ผมและเพื่อนๆได้เข้าร่วมโครงการอบรมพัฒนาทักษะชีวิตเยาวชนได้รับความรู้ในเรื่องของยาเสพติดกฎจราจรและอนามัยเจริญพันธุ์ทำให้พวกเราได้รับความรู้มีความเข้าใจในเรื่องเหล่านี้มากขึ้นซึ่งพวกเราสามารถนำไปปรับใช้ในชีวิตประจำวันได้อย่างถูกต้องเหมาะสมเพื่อลดปัญหาทางสังคมครับขอบคุณครับ
สาวจิราพรผู้อำนวยการโรงเรียนการดำเนินงานของมูลนิธิสุพรรณนิมิตบ่อเกลือได้ให้การสนับสนุนโรงเรียนทั้งตัวเด็กและตัวคุณครูได้รับการอบรมและพัฒนาในเรื่องสื่อการเรียนการสอนซึ่งส่งผลต่อตัวเด็กทำให้ผลสำเร็จทางการเรียนของนักเรียนดีขึ้นนักเรียนจบมีงานทำที่มั่นคงและได้รับการพัฒนาทักษะชีวิตสามารถช่วยเหลือตนเองครอบครัวได้ในอนาคตค่ะ
สวัสดีครับกับผมนัทดลประธานศูนย์การเรียนรู้สุพรรณนิมิตบ่อเกลือจากการดำเนินงานของมูลนิธิที่ผ่านมาส่งผลให้เด็กและครอบครัวเกิดการเปลี่ยนแปลงในทุกด้านในด้านการส่งเสริมอาชีพได้มีศูนย์การเรียนรู้เพื่อให้คนในชุมชนได้เข้ามาฝึกทักษะอาชีพและนำไปปรับใช้ในครอบครัวของตนเองทำให้มีอาชีพที่ก่อเกิดรายได้และมีคุณภาพชีวิตที่ดีขึ้นกับผมขอขอบคุณมูลนิธิสุพรรณนิมิตและผู้ประกอบการมากครับขอบคุณครับ
มูลนิธิสุพรรณนิมิตบ่อเกลือได้พัฒนาให้เด็กครอบครัวชุมชนเกิดความอยู่ดีมีสุขเด็กได้รับโอกาสในด้านการศึกษาตามช่วงวัยมีสุขภาพอนามัยมีทักษะชีวิตและทักษะอาชีพที่เหมาะสมตลอดจนครอบครัวได้รับโอกาสในด้านการพัฒนาอาชีพที่จะก่อให้เกิดรายได้และสามารถเลี้ยงดูตนเองได้อย่างยั่งยืนต่อไปตลอดระยะเวลาที่ผ่านมาผมขอขอบคุณท่านผู้อุปการะทุกท่านที่ได้ให้ความรักความเมตตาและให้โอกาสในการพัฒนาต่อเด็กๆทุกคนผมหวังว่าท่านจะมีความเมตตาและให้การอุปการะต่อเด็กคนอื่นๆต่อไปขอขอบคุณครับ
ขอบคุณท่านผู้อุปการะมากครับบ๊ายบายขอบคุณท่านผู้อุปการะมากนะคะขอบคุณค่ะบ๊ายบาย
I hope you enjoyed that video. The beauty of what we do here in World Vision is that we are creating transformation for everyone involved, including the children and communities, of course, but hopefully also for you, our sponsors, and even for me as a staff as well. In this next part, I'd like to share with you about our impact on the community. And when I say our impact, I do mean all of us here, because none of this would be possible without all of you. So this is very much your impact too. Now I have to caveat this by saying that normally when we close a project, my team would go in to conduct a program evaluation. And this would be a comprehensive look at all that the program has accomplished throughout its lifetime, what changes have resulted, and how the community is going to sustain them even after we leave. And we were in fact planning to do this for Bokler ADP this year. However, because of the COVID-19 situation, we've been forced to postpone it due to the restrictions and also to be able to focus our attention on responding to the crisis. So please be assured that my team will still be working on this down the line when the situation allows, but it does mean that for now, I'm not able to give you as comprehensive a report as I would like. Nevertheless, I can say that there is already much to celebrate and be encouraged by, and that's what I'd like to share with you today. So the projects that we carried out in Bokler ADP focused on child development in the areas of education, health and nutrition, as well as food security. And we've seen really good progress in each of these areas. We've managed to support full vaccination coverage against common childhood diseases for all children in the area. And we're seeing that almost all children 0 to 6 years old are hitting their developmental milestones. 86% are passing their functional literacy tests, and 2 in every 5 youth are demonstrating higher levels of applied life skills. So these are all significant outcomes and the result of the work that we've been doing over the many years of the program. And this gives us hope that children are in a much better position than they were before, and that there are systems and structures in place to support their development, be it in health, nutrition, or education. How has this been done? I'd like to just highlight a few of the key achievements in the last year alone that have contributed towards these outcomes just from the last year. 463 secondary school children have been supported in their school tuition, as this is the period when we know that students are most likely to drop out of school. At the same time, we are actively engaging these youth to develop their life skills and enable them to be active contributors in their communities. 950 of them participated in various community service projects that were initiated and carried out by the youths themselves. Increasingly, in this modern economy, we recognize that soft skills like problem solving, critical thinking, and relational and communication skills are important contributors to the long-term success of children and youth. And so that's what we've been trying to inculcate through these trainings and projects. We've also supported the educational institutions and networks, 13 schools where teachers have been equipped to develop locally appropriate learning materials. Shu Juan also shared a little bit about this earlier in her slides. These are materials that are media rich and draw on local cultural references to produce stories for learning. As you know, there are a large number of ethnic minorities in Bokler, and so these materials recognize and represent the cultural heritage as well. We're seeing that this has really encouraged children to take more of an interest in their studies, and this is likely also one factor that's contributing to the improving literacy levels as well. We support children at home too by supporting 263 of the most vulnerable families with supplementary food sources. So for those of you who have visited Bokler, you will have seen this, frogs, catfish, chicken, mushrooms. These are some of the food sources that we've supported families with, firstly for their own consumption, but also for cultivation so that they can sell their surplus for extra income. We've also supported 593 children with non-food items, including blankets, mosquito nets, and stationery kits. And again, these are only the achievements of the last year. So over the last phase of this program, we have trained over 1,700 community members and 1,270 youths in occupational skills, as you've already seen earlier in the previous sharings. This is the proverbial teaching a man to fish. And so during this last year with the COVID-19 pandemic, these investments have been really paying dividends for our community. Finally, we've also set up and mobilized 2 community support networks made up of a wide range of community actors to monitor child development outcomes in the community. Now, this may not sound like much, but I can tell you that actually more than anything else, this is what encourages me. Why? Because this goes to the very heart of what World Vision believes in and does. We are not primarily about providing things to people. What we exist to do is to strengthen and empower communities to take care of themselves and each other. And when I evaluate a program, this is what I'm looking for. This is how I know that the program results can be sustained if we have partners and community members who are empowered to stand up for children in the community. And to that end, I've been hearing so many stories from Kluea about our community volunteers, about their strength and readiness to step up and support children. Our community volunteers are, without question, the unsung heroes of our communities. And this has become so clear in the COVID-19 pandemic. When communities were under lockdown and access to the field was restricted, World Vision mobilized and supported volunteers to distribute PPE and food packages. We trained volunteers to monitor children at home, to ensure that they were safe and protected at a time when domestic violence and mental health challenges were on the rise. And in Kluea, we have our own share of wonderful community volunteers who go above and beyond the call of duty. One such individual is Niam, who would volunteer to take young children to school by foot in the rainy season, which is no small feat because as you saw in Shu Zhen's video earlier, the terrain is indeed very hilly. So a truly amazing individual. She has been a fervent supporter of World Vision's work for years, and she supports us in monitoring the well-being of children. And you know, these volunteers, they get nothing from us for doing this. In fact, one of our World Vision staff would bring vegetables from her own home garden for the volunteers because that's all we could offer them. But it is people like Niam that let me know that the community is on the right track because they have come together to support one another. And that's also why I believe, Shu Zhen, that there will be those looking out for your sponsored child as well. So how do we measure the success of a program? That's a question that I think a lot about in my work. And there are many, many numbers that we measure. But I still think that nothing compares to seeing children grow up, fulfill their potential, and then come back to serve their community and extend the same opportunities that they have received to others. Children who grow up to be like Chamot from Kluea, who has been a sponsored child since she was in kindergarten, and she's now 23 years old. She comes from a family of daily wage laborers with no regular income. But with the support of World Vision, her family was able to set up supplementary occupations, and she was able to continue her education. She then went to Chiang Mai to get her bachelor's degree, and then has now come back to Kluea to be a contract teacher. And what she wants now is to see her community develop further. So she's waiting to take the government exam to become a full-fledged teacher. So you can see that we've come full cycle. And I don't know about you, but that really warms my heart. And so I tell you all of this to let you know that your contribution makes a difference. You are the reason that we are able to do what we do. You are the reason that your sponsored children are on a better path and will get the support that they need to continue on that path. You are the reason that this community is able to continue to move forward with the confidence and internal resources that they need to build on the progress of these past few years. Now, I know that all of us are living through times of tremendous bad news, especially here in Thailand. And at this point, we have to accept that the outlook is still uncertain. But at least in this community, we believe that we have reason to be hopefully optimistic for the future of our children. Thank you for making this possible. Khop khun mak ka.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for your sharing, and also for you and your team for working so tirelessly on the ground, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic. I think from your impacts sharing, we can see that and tell that, we've just come such a long way and the results really show for itself. And also, like what you've mentioned, because of each of the sponsors' contribution over the years, we're able to see all these changes, and transformation happening in Kluea community. So once again, if any one of you on this call, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A function that you see at the bottom of your screen. Or you may also, WhatsApp us at 69220144 or scan the QR code. We'll be more than happy to answer any of your queries. So right now, please enjoy a phase out video prepared by the team.
I've joined the World Vision sponsorship program in 2014. Normally communicate via letters, written letters, and we'll send photos of each other as well.
This is Nijana, my sponsor child from Bukit, Thailand. As the project is coming to an end, I'm feeling sad, but at the same time I'm very glad because that the community of Buku can obtain self-reliance through the World Vision program. Hope that many more can join in through this journey and help more people. Thank you.
So I know most of you on this call are existing child sponsors of our Kluea area program. So you should have received a phase-out package in your mail by now. And this phase-out package contains, a phase-out booklet and also a proposed child profile. And we hope that you will be able to continue your child sponsorship journey by continuing your sponsorship of another child in another vulnerable community. If somehow or rather you did not receive the phase-out package, please reach out to us. You may, once again, drop us a WhatsApp message at 6922-0144 or scan the QR code. We have specially selected 3 very vulnerable communities for you to continue your child sponsorship. So you should receive a child profile from either one of these 3 communities. And the 3 areas, they all have very, very different needs. So just to give a very quick sharing and background. So for example, in Myanmar, Taichi, we are, working in this area where it's located near the sea and has a tropical monsoon climate. So flash floods and landslides are very common and they wipe out the paddy fields and they kill livestock. So children, they have to travel to school by boat every day, as you can see from this picture. And, flood waters remain up to 2 months. And because this community lacks disaster preparedness skills, they are always hard hit when disasters arise. And this is, of course, exacerbated, when there's already a lack of basic needs. And as for Sontra, this area, it is the only urban area that World Vision Singapore is currently supporting. The urban poor poses another set of issues because, while urbanization rapidly spreads in Sontra district, children from poor families continue to struggle to meet their basic needs. So statistics shows that almost 1 in 5 people live on less than $2 per day. And there are gaps in the areas of housing, transportation, and education. And lastly, for NTK, this area has the highest rate of malnutrition in the entire Western Visayas region in the Philippines. So with malnutrition present in the target community, a lot of the children, they face an increased risk of wasting, stunted growth, respiratory illnesses, and even impaired brain development. So up to 26% of the population in NTK live below the national poverty line. So we're very thankful for, sponsors for continuing their sponsorship. And, just on another note, I know many of you here, you are very supportive of the work that we do at World Vision, and you have no qualms in continuing your sponsorship with the proposed child in your mail. So just note that no action is required on your end, and if you wish to continue the sponsorship. However, for those of you who may have any queries, or if you wish to sponsor more children, please feel free to reach out to us because we have so many children waiting to be sponsored, and even from many other countries as well. Yep. So at this point in time, we have also prepared another surprise, especially for those of you who have went on our World Vision initiated trips to Kluea. So please enjoy this video. Wow, it has been, such a fruitful 13 years of journeying together with the Kluea community. As we bid farewell to them, I know many of you will have stories to share, be it from the trips that you've been to, or, the letters that you've received from your sponsored child. And, we would very, very much like to hear from you. So please share them on your social media platforms, and don't forget to tag us at World Vision SG, and also, include the hashtag WVSPop. Okay, so finally, I know I've said this a couple of times, but I think we really, really do mean it, from the bottom of our hearts. We cannot thank you enough for sponsors like yourself who continues to sponsor and support World Vision's work throughout the years. It takes two hands to clap, and it will be impossible for World Vision to do what we do without your continuous sponsorship. I like to quote from Mother Teresa. She once said, we ourselves feel that what we're doing is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be less because of that missing drop. So $45 to sponsor a child for a month may seem so insignificant to many, but it really, really means the world to that one child and community. And together, as it adds up, we can really make a difference to the lives of the most vulnerable. So, as you've heard from Shu Zhuan's sharing, you've heard from Deborah's sharing, the changes that we've made in the community is definitely significant, and we are very happy that we're able to phase out of this area and go on to help another more vulnerable area in need of help. So on behalf of World Vision Singapore and Thailand, we would like to say a big thank you to each and every one of you. Now, I know today's session is ending off a bit earlier, so if you have any questions, please feel free to drop us a WhatsApp message, or use the Q&A function. We will be very happy to answer any of your queries. So before we end this session, we hope that you can also fill in a feedback poll that will be popping up in front of your screen, and this will allow us to improve our future webinar sessions and events. Yeah, so if you are interested in finding more about our child sponsorship programs, of course you can do not hesitate. Feel free to just drop us a message or email or call us. Yeah, we will be more than happy to assist you. So thank you for attending our face out party for Kluea this morning. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.